The first thought that crossed my mind when I opened my eyes was simple and terrifying. This isn't my life. The second thought, which hit harder and louder, was even worse. This is my script. It wasn't some cute dream, not one of those fan service fantasies writers laugh about after too many coffees at 2 a.m. No, I was literally standing inside the very world I had created, a world of angst, longing, and love that was never supposed to belong to me. And right in front of me, glaring with eyes that burned like they wanted to consume me whole, was the boy I had written to break hearts. Ethan. God help me, Ethan was real. He was everything I had described. The reckless bad boy with a tragic past, the kind of person who smokes secrets instead of cigarettes and kisses like the world might end tomorrow. I'd spent months writing him into existence, molding his pain and his beauty into a character meant to haunt my readers. And now here he was, alive, furious, and worse than anything, looking at me as though I had been the one keeping him caged. "Why are you here?" His voice was raw velvet, the exact cadence I'd once typed in a late-night daze. "Who the hell are you?" I froze, because what was I supposed to say? "Oh hi, I'm your creator. You're my imaginary boyfriend, but surprise, I guess I live here now." Instead, all I could manage was a broken laugh. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you." The silence stretched. Ethan's grip tightened on my wrist, pulling me closer until I could feel the heat of him. My chest hammered like it was trying to escape. And then, with a voice trembling somewhere between rage and desperation, he whispered, "Try me." The town was exactly as I remembered it from the pages of my script. The cracked sidewalks, the flickering diner sign on Main Street, the church bells that rang a beat too slow. I had built this place with words, but living inside it was something else entirely. It felt too sharp, too vivid, as if every color was fighting to prove it existed. I stumbled through, Ethan's presence following me like a storm cloud. He didn't let me go, not even when we passed through the familiar landmarks. Places I had designed for heartbreak, for stolen kisses, for the cruel weight of secrets. It was surreal, walking through my own imagination while handcuffed to the very boy I had doomed to suffer. "You don't belong here," he finally said when we reached the empty parking lot behind the diner. His eyes narrowed. "But you know me. You know too much. Who told you about me?" I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "No one told me. I wrote you." The words fell heavy between us. For a moment, I thought he would laugh, call me insane, or worse, leave me to crumble under the absurdity of it all. But Ethan didn't laugh. Instead, his expression darkened with something like betrayal. "You wrote me?" His voice cracked. "Every bruise, every secret, every goddamn sleepless night. You made me?" My heart shattered, because hearing it out loud, hearing the pain that I had so casually designed for drama's sake, felt unbearable. "I didn't mean to hurt you," I whispered. "I thought I was just writing a story. I didn't think it was real." Ethan's jaw clenched, his fists curled at his sides. For a moment, I thought he might hit me, or kiss me. And then, suddenly, he turned away, his shoulders trembling. "You gave me a life I never asked for," he muttered. "And now you're here, like you can just walk into it." That night, I stayed at the diner. Ethan left me there, but not without a warning glance that said more than words ever could. "Don't leave. I'll find you." The neon lights buzzed above me as I sat in a corner booth, staring at the coffee cup that refused to cool. Couldn't sleep. Every word I had ever written replayed in my head. Scenes I knew were coming. Tragedies I had planned, kisses I had craved, heartbreaks I had orchestrated because I thought that was what good stories were made of. And then it hit me. If I was inside my script, if this really was the world I had built, then I wasn't just a bystander. I was part of the story now, which meant I could change it. But what would happen if I did? Would Ethan ever forgive me for what I had done to him? Or worse, would he ever let me go? The next day, I woke to find him waiting outside, leaning against a street lamp, his leather jacket catching the morning light. Ethan looked like every cliché I had ever tried to avoid. Dangerous, beautiful, impossible to ignore. "You're coming with me," he said simply. I wanted to protest, but the words died on my tongue. Because deep down, I knew the truth. I had written him this way. Ethan wasn't going to let me vanish. He was going to drag me into his world, into his pain, into his love, and maybe into his ruin. And maybe I wanted him to. That was the beginning of it. The line between writer and character blurred until I couldn't tell where I ended and Ethan began. Every moment with him felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, terrified and exhilarated. He hated me for what I had done, yet he pulled me closer with every breath. And somewhere in the middle of all that chaos, something unexpected bloomed. Not just guilt, not just fear, but a tenderness that wasn't in the script. Something real. Something that could rewrite everything. The silence in Ethan's car was suffocating. He drove like he was trying to outrun something invisible, hands gripping the wheel so tight his knuckles whitened. The engine roared against the still morning air, yet all I could hear was the storm inside my own chest. Every time his profile caught the light, the curve of his jaw, the furrow of his brows, I remembered that I had made him this way. And he knew it. "You're quiet," he muttered finally, eyes still fixed on the road. I swallowed. "What do you want me to say? Sorry I built your world out of clichés and heartbreak? Sorry you were born from my late-night loneliness?" His laugh was sharp, humorless. "You think words like sorry can undo everything? You think they can erase nights I couldn't sleep, fists I couldn't stop, people I couldn't save?" The car swerved slightly, and I clutched the door handle. His anger was a live thing, breathing between us, and I realized I didn't know how far it might go. "Ethan," my voice trembled. "If you hate me so much, why bring me with you?" For the first time, his gaze tore from the road. He turned, eyes blazing, and said softly, dangerously, "Because you're mine." We ended up at the cliffs outside town. The place I had written as Ethan's sanctuary, his secret escape from a world that chewed him raw. In the script, this was where he came to brood, to smoke, to let the ocean wind scream for him when his own voice failed. Seeing it in reality was haunting. The waves slammed against the rocks below, throwing salt and foam into the air. Ethan leaned against his car, arms crossed, eyes on the horizon. I stood a few feet away, the cold biting into me. "Why here?" I asked. "Because this is where you said I come when I can't breathe," he shot back. His smirk twisted into something bitter. "You should know you wrote it." His words were a knife. I wanted to explain, to tell him that none of it was supposed to be real, that his pain was just plot. But how could I justify to him that his suffering was entertainment? That I had crafted his wounds for the sake of readers who would swoon and cry and then move on? "I was cruel to you," I whispered finally, "and you don't deserve it." For a moment his hard mask faltered. His jaw trembled. His eyes flickered with something raw, unguarded. But then he snapped his gaze back to the sea. "You don't get to decide what I deserve." That night we didn't go home. He parked the car near a rundown motel, the kind of place where secrets rot and nobody asks questions. He got a room with 2 beds, threw the key onto the dresser, and collapsed onto his mattress without a word. I lay awake for hours, staring at the water stains on the ceiling, the sound of Ethan's breathing just a few feet away. Every inhale was heavy, uneven, as if his chest carried the weight of the world. And all I could think was, I gave him that weight. At some point, he spoke into the darkness. "Why did you make me this way?" The question was so small, so broken, that I almost missed it. I turned, heart pounding. "Ethan, I don't understand," he continued, voice cracking. "You could have written me happy. You could have given me a family that stayed, friends who didn't betray me. You could have given me someone to love without shame. I wanted to cry. I thought tragedy made the story more powerful. Silence. Then a bitter laugh. Powerful for who? Not for me. His pain was a noose tightening around my chest. I couldn't take it anymore. I sat up, desperate, my words spilling out like confessions. Then let me change it. Let me fix it. If I'm here, if I'm part of this world now, I can rewrite everything. I don't know how, but I'll try. I'll give you peace. I'll give you love. Whatever you want. The room went quiet again. For a long time, Ethan didn't move, didn't breathe. Then, slowly, he turned on his side to face me. The lamp from the street bled faint light through the curtains, enough for me to see his eyes. They weren't angry now. They were searching. "And if what I want," he whispered, "is you?" The next few days blurred into something both terrifying and intoxicating. He kept me close, too close. Walking through town, it felt like everyone's eyes followed us. Curiosity, judgment, whispers trailing in the air. Small-town America wasn't kind to boys who looked at each other the way Ethan sometimes looked at me, and yet he didn't care. He never let me drift too far, as though afraid I might vanish if he blinked. We argued. God, we argued about everything. About the way I had written his past, about the kisses I had scripted for him with another boy, about the endings I had planned. He hated me for my choices. Yet every time we clashed, the tension thickened into something that burned hotter than anger. And then, one evening, it snapped. We were back at the cliffs. The sun was dying in streaks of orange and violet, and Ethan stood too close, his breath uneven. "You don't get it," he rasped, grabbing my arm. "You think you can just rewrite me, make me into some happy little love story, but I'm not your fantasy. I'm not your toy. I know," I whispered, shaking. "I know you're real now. I see you, Ethan. Then stop running." His voice cracked. "Stop acting like you don't feel it too." Before I could answer, his mouth was on mine. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't neat. It was fire and desperation, fury and grief crashing together in the space between us. I gasped against him, every nerve in my body igniting. He tasted like salt and defiance, and when his hand tangled in my hair, I knew. I had written countless kisses, but none of them could ever touch this. This was chaos. This was salvation. This was Ethan. But love in this world was never going to be simple. Because if I remembered my own script correctly, tragedy was waiting just around the corner. And this time, it wouldn't just be Ethan's heart on the line. The kiss haunted me. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt Ethan's lips on mine, wild, bruising, unrelenting. It had burned through me, searing itself into my veins, refusing to let me forget. But the problem was neither could he. He didn't talk about it. Not the next day, not the day after. Instead, Ethan turned colder, sharper, as if punishing himself for wanting something he had no right to want. I watched him withdraw into silence, the walls around him growing taller, the fire in his eyes dimming into ashes. And the worst part? I knew why. Because I had written it this way. I had written Ethan as a boy who could never have what he wanted without bloodshed. A boy whose love was always shadowed by pain. I had built him for tragedy, and he knew it. He hated me for it, but more than that, he hated himself for daring to hope. It was a Thursday evening when everything cracked open. We were at the diner, the hum of neon signs vibrating through the windows. Ethan sat across from me, jaw tight, eyes restless. The waitress poured coffee into his cup, but he didn't touch it. Finally, he spoke. "Do you know what they call me in this town?" I froze. His tone was sharp, dangerous, like glass pressed against skin. "They call me a freak," he continued, his voice steady but his hands trembling against the table. They whisper it when I walk by. They spit it under their breath. And the worst part is they don't even know the half of it. Ethan. No, listen. His eyes locked on mine, fierce and unyielding. I've spent my whole life choking down who I am, pretending it doesn't matter, pretending I don't care. But then you show up, with your stupid soft eyes and your words that taste like truth. And suddenly I can't breathe unless I'm near you. And it terrifies me. My throat closed. I wanted to reach across the table, to grab his hand, to tell him he wasn't alone. But I didn't, because I could feel the weight of the room pressing in on us. The stares, the whispers, the suffocating air of a town that would never accept what was happening between us. And then, as if fate couldn't resist twisting the knife, the door slammed open. It was Marcus. The other boy, the one I had written as Ethan's almost love. His near miss, the boy who had broken him before I ever arrived. Tall, broad-shouldered, with eyes like ice, Marcus scanned the room, and when his gaze landed on Ethan, and then slid to me, his face darkened with a fury that felt biblical. Well, well, Marcus sneered, striding toward us. Look who finally found himself a pet project. Ethan stiffened, his jaw flexed, but he didn't move. Get out of here, Marcus, he said quietly. But Marcus laughed, loud and cruel. What's the matter, Ethan? Couldn't handle the real thing, so you settled for some lost little stranger. Heat surged through me, anger flaring so bright I almost stood up, but Ethan's hand shot out, grabbing my wrist under the table. His grip was iron, his warning clear. Don't. The diner had gone silent. Every eye was on us, and in that suffocating moment, I realized what was happening. This was the scene I had written, the confrontation, the humiliation, the turning point. But living it was nothing like writing it. Because when Marcus leaned closer, voice dripping venom, and spat, "Freaks like you don't deserve love," Ethan's mask shattered. He stood so suddenly his chair clattered to the floor. His fists clenched, his chest heaved, and for one terrifying heartbeat, I thought he was going to throw the first punch. But he didn't. Instead, Ethan grabbed my hand, this time in front of everyone, and pulled me toward the door. The whispers rose like wildfire, judgment, laughter, disgust, but he didn't stop. Not until we were outside, rain hammering down, soaking us to the bone. And then he turned to me, eyes blazing with something I couldn't name. You see, his voice broke. This is what you gave me. A life where I can't even exist without being torn apart. I shook my head, tears burning my eyes. No, Ethan, that's what I wrote. But I'm here now, and if I can change it, I will. I swear to you, I'll fight for you. His breath came ragged, his chest rising and falling like waves crashing against rocks. And then, in the middle of the storm, he whispered, "Don't make promises you can't keep." The days that followed were a blur of chaos. Marcus didn't stop. Rumors spread like wildfire through town. Suddenly, Ethan wasn't just the boy with a bad reputation. He was the boy caught in whispers about another boy. About me. It was brutal. Everywhere we went, eyes followed. Doors closed. Conversations hushed. And Ethan unraveled. He tried to act tough, to pretend it didn't matter, but I saw the way his hands shook when he lit a cigarette, the way he stared too long at the ground when people passed. He was crumbling, piece by piece, and I didn't know how to stop it. One night, I found him at the cliffs again. Rain poured around him, his hair plastered to his face, his body trembling. "Ethan," I called, rushing to him. He didn't turn. "You should go back," he muttered. "This isn't your fight." "Yes, it is," I said, stepping closer. "You think I don't know pain? You think I don't know what it's like to feel invisible, unwanted? Maybe I didn't live your story before, but I'm living it now. And I'm not leaving you to drown in it. Finally, he faced me. His eyes were red, his face pale. You don't get it, he whispered. They'll never let us exist. Not here. Not like this. I swallowed hard, rain stinging my lips. Then we'll make our own place. We'll write a new story. One where you get to be happy. For a moment, the storm fell away. It was just us, two broken boys clinging to each other in the dark. And when Ethan pulled me into his arms, when his forehead pressed against mine, I knew the truth. We were already rewriting it. But every love story comes with a cost. And ours was about to demand one. I didn't realize how fast rumors could spread until I lived inside them. By Monday morning, the whole town was buzzing. Whispers followed us down the street like shadows. Teachers looked at me with polite confusion, as if wondering where I'd come from, while students didn't bother hiding their sneers. The freak and his boy. It didn't take long for the taunts to turn into something uglier. I was walking out of the corner store when Marcus stepped in front of me, flanked by two of his football buddies. His smile was sharp, the kind of smile that cut deeper than fists. Hey, new kid, he drawled, blocking my path. You and Ethan having fun playing house? My blood went cold. Move. But he didn't. Instead, he leaned closer, his breath hot and bitter. You don't belong here. Whatever spell you've got him under, it won't last. Ethan's mine. Always has been. The words were poison. Not because I believed them, but because I had written them once. In my script, Marcus was the ghost Ethan could never quite escape. And now that ghost was standing in front of me, flesh and fury, determined to destroy us. I shoved past him, but his laugh followed me all the way down the block. That night, Ethan showed up at the motel, soaked to the skin, his eyes wild. Did he touch you? He demanded, grabbing my shoulders. No, I said quickly. Just words. Ethan cursed under his breath, pacing the room like a caged animal. I'll kill him. Ethan. I mean it. His voice cracked. If he comes near you again, I swear. I stepped forward, catching his hands. They were shaking, knuckles bruised from fights I hadn't seen. You can't fight the whole world, I whispered. You'll destroy yourself. His eyes searched mine, desperate, pleading. Then what do I do? Tell me, because I'm running out of ways to keep breathing. The weight of his pain crushed me. I wanted to tell him I had all the answers, that I could rewrite everything with a single thought. But the truth was I didn't know how. I was just as lost as he was. So I did the only thing I could. I pulled him into my arms. For a moment, the storm inside him quieted. His head dropped to my shoulder, his breath ragged. And in that fragile silence, I whispered the only truth I had. You don't have to fight this alone anymore. But the world wasn't going to let us hide. The next week was brutal. At school, Marcus cornered Ethan in the locker room, shoving him against the wall, spitting venom about me. The other boys laughed, egged him on until Ethan snapped and threw the first punch. By the time teachers broke it up, blood was smeared across Ethan's lip and Marcus's knuckles. Both of them were suspended. That night, Ethan sat on the hood of his car, staring out at the empty football field. I found him there, bruised and silent, the weight of the world pressing down on his shoulders. You're bleeding, I said softly, sitting beside him. He shrugged. Doesn't matter. Yes, it does. I reached out, brushing a thumb against the cut on his lip. He flinched but didn't pull away. You matter, Ethan. More than you think. For the first time, his mask cracked. His voice was a whisper, almost a confession. Sometimes I wonder what it would feel like if I just disappeared. My chest ached. Don't say that. Why not? You wrote me broken. Maybe that's all I'll ever be. I shook my head fiercely. No, you're not broken. You're human. You're real. And you deserve so much more than what I gave you. His eyes met mine, raw and searching, and for a moment I thought he might believe me. But Marcus wasn't finished. 2 nights later, he showed up at the cliffs. I had gone there looking for Ethan, but instead found Marcus waiting, his face twisted with rage. "You're ruining him," Marcus snarled. "Ethan was already messed up, but now, with you, he's spiraling, and I won't let you drag him down." My hands shook. "I'm not ruining him. I love him." The words slipped out before I could stop them. My heart pounded in my ears, but I didn't regret them, because they were true. Marcus froze, shock flickering across his face, before twisting into something darker. "Love." He spat the word like it was poison. "Don't you get it? That kind of love will kill him." And then he shoved me. The world tilted. My feet slipped on the wet rocks, the ocean roaring below. For a split second, I thought I was going over. But then Ethan's hand caught mine. "Enough!" Ethan's voice thundered, raw with fury and terror. He yanked me back, pulling me into his chest. His arms wrapped around me, iron and trembling, as if letting go would mean losing me forever. Marcus staggered back, his face pale. For the first time, he looked afraid. Ethan's voice was low, shaking with rage. "If you ever touch him again, I swear, Marcus, I'll end this. You hear me? I'm done being your punching bag." Marcus opened his mouth, but no words came. Finally, he turned and vanished into the darkness. Ethan didn't let go of me, not for a long time. Later, back at the motel, I sat on the bed, my body still shaking. Ethan paced the room, running his hands through his hair, his chest heaving. Finally, he stopped, staring at me with eyes that burned. "You said you loved me," he whispered. The air froze. My heart stopped. My throat closed. "Yes, I did." He stepped closer, slow, deliberate, as if afraid I might vanish. "Say it again." My voice trembled, but I didn't look away. "I love you, Ethan." Something inside him broke then, not with violence but with release. He crossed the space between us in 2 strides, cupping my face in his bruised hands, and kissed me like it was the only thing keeping him alive. It wasn't fire this time. It was something deeper, desperate, fragile, a plea and a promise all tangled together. And as his lips moved against mine, as his heartbeat pounded against my chest, I realized the truth. This wasn't just a story anymore. It was us. But the storm wasn't over. The hospital smelled like disinfectant and wilted flowers. Yet in that sterile air, I felt the most human I had in years. Ethan's hand wrapped around mine, his thumb brushing gently against my knuckles, as if reassuring himself that I was truly there, alive and breathing. "You scared the hell out of me," he whispered, his voice breaking. "Don't you ever do that again." I tried to smile, though every part of me ached. "Guess I'm more fragile than the characters I wrote." "You're not fragile," Ethan said, his eyes blazing. "You're human, and you're mine. Don't you dare forget that." The weight of his words settled into me like sunlight after a storm. All my life, I'd written love stories I thought were impossible for someone like me. Stories that belonged to fiction, to fantasy. Yet here I was, living one, bruised and battered but undeniably real. When the doctor finally cleared me, Ethan refused to let me walk out of the hospital alone. He carried my bag, hovered by my side, and muttered curses at every passing car as if the world itself might try to take me from him again. "Ethan," I said, exasperated but secretly warmed, "you don't have to guard me like a soldier." "Yes, I do," he shot back, "because I almost lost you, and I don't plan to feel that way again." We argued, but it wasn't anger, it was fear disguised as sharp edges. Underneath, there was something softer, a promise neither of us dared say out loud, that we had found something worth protecting. The first night back at his apartment, I couldn't sleep. The city outside his window hummed with life, neon lights bleeding into the dark. I stared at the ceiling, listening to Ethan breathe beside me, steady and deep. My chest ached with something I hadn't felt in years, hope. I whispered into the quiet, unsure if he was awake. Do you think we'll ever be free? From all this noise, all this judgment. For a moment, silence. Then his arm slid around me, pulling me close until my back was pressed to his chest. We don't need the world to be quiet, he murmured. We just need to be louder together. Tears burned in my eyes. For once, I let them fall. Time passed slowly at first, then all at once. Ethan was relentless in his pursuit of happiness. Not just for himself, but for me. He introduced me to his friends, invited me into his world. There were awkward stares, whispered comments, the kind of friction that once would have sent me spiraling. But with Ethan's hand in mine, the noise faded into background static. One night, at a friend's gathering, someone asked bluntly, "So, you two, is this real?" Ethan didn't flinch. He looked at me, smiled, then kissed me in front of everyone. It's as real as it gets. Laughter, applause, a few shocked faces, but none of it mattered, because for the first time in my life I didn't feel like a fraud living inside someone else's script. I felt like the main character in my own story. But love, real love, isn't just declarations under fairy lights. It's patience in the small hours of the morning, it's arguments over nothing, it's choosing to stay when it would be easier to leave. I broke down one night, overwhelmed by the past, by the weight of my own fears. I shouted, said things I didn't mean, accused Ethan of wanting someone stronger, someone braver. He didn't shout back. He just looked at me, raw pain in his eyes. Then he stepped forward, pressed his forehead to mine, and whispered, "Stop writing tragedies in your head. You and me, we're not a tragedy. We're the goddamn sequel to every happy ending you never believed in." And for the first time, I believed him. Months later, I stood on a stage at a small bookshop in Brooklyn, reading the final passage of my latest story. My hands trembled, but not from fear. This time it was anticipation. The story was ours. The crowd clapped, some even cheered, and when I looked up, Ethan was there, his smile brighter than any spotlight. Afterward, as we walked hand in hand down the quiet street, I laughed. Do you realize what this means? I'm officially a BL writer living his own BL story. Ethan smirked. Correction, you're officially a man who finally stopped hiding. And I'm the guy crazy enough to fall in love with you. Crazy, I teased. Madly, he corrected, before kissing me beneath the glow of a flickering street lamp. The night was cool, the air filled with the scent of rain on asphalt. I leaned into him, and for once, I didn't care who might be watching. The city could stare, the world could whisper. None of it mattered anymore. Because I had written myself into a story I thought was impossible. And in the end, I found the one plot twist I never saw coming. A love that was real. A love that was mine. And so, the script closed, not with tragedy, but with a quiet, steady truth. Sometimes the most beautiful stories aren't the ones we invent. They're the ones we finally allow ourselves to live. Thank you for listening. If you find it interesting, please like and subscribe to follow the next stories.